the whole, then third reading. All members, of course, participate in these various debates. At the moment, there are 6 bills at second reading stage, 7 at committee of the whole, and 33 at the third reading stage. It is anticipated that the House will probably adjourn sometime late this week or early next week. Let us pray. The prayer for Parliament is used at Westminster since 1659. We, thine unworthy servants, here gathered together in thy name, do humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our considerations. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to introduce His Excellency Itzhak Shela, who is the Ambassador of Israel to Canada. His Excellency has been Israel's ambassador to our country since December of last year and is today paying his first visit to Alberta in that capacity. We hope that his visit will provide an opportunity to become better acquainted with Albertans, the beauty of this province, and the dynamism of our economy. Israel and Canada have a strong and stable trading relationship, in which Alberta also plays a significant part. We trust that this relationship will be further enhanced to our mutual benefit in the future. I would ask that His Excellency, who is standing, receive a warm welcome from the members of the Assembly.
Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions.
Calgary Boswell.
I'd like to table a petition signed by 668 concerned Albertans calling on the Premier and the government to stop hiding financial information relating to the lease of the Kananaskis golf course and asking the Premier to enact freedom of information legislation so that public business will be conducted in public.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to give notice that at the end of question period today, I will ask for unanimous consent of the House to deal with the motion under Standing Order 40. The motion reads as follows: be it resolved that Bill 315, the annual election of the Speaker, be moved to the top of the order paper under bills and orders other than government bills, so as to make it possible to elect the Speaker of the Alberta Assembly on an annual basis.
Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to file with the Assembly today the response to motion for return 295.
Minister of Economic Development and Trade. Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I filing with the Assembly copies of the program called Alberta Days in Tokyo, and copies of those will be made available to all members of the Assembly as promised last week.
Thank you. Minister of Education, followed Minister of Career Development and Employment.
Mr. Speaker, I'm filing with the Assembly today a copy of the report of the French Language Working Group. Mr. Speaker, this was a group of people who were asked to provide advice to the Minister of Education and to the government on the implementation of the Supreme Court decision with respect to French language education.
Career Development and Employment.
Mr. Speaker, it's a privilege to file with Assembly a series of 4 documents pertaining to apprenticeship in the workforce. The first being the Apprenticeship and Industry Training Review Committee, the final report. Second, the Apprenticeship and Industry Training Review, which contains the comments of the advisory panel on the review committee's final report. Third, future trends in apprenticeship training, the implications. And fourth and finally, the Alberta workforce to the year 2000.
Calgary-Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to file with the Assembly copies of a document entitled Alberta Public Sector Pensions, Principles for Pension Reform, prepared by Alberta Treasury and dated May 30th, 1991.
Introduction of special guests.
The Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs, followed by the member for Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure on behalf of the Honourable Minister of Energy and myself to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly members of the Gasoline Consumers Information Committee who have served our province well by providing for an independent adjudication of prices, oil and gas prices, through the crisis in the Gulf period and following that. They are seated in the members' gallery, and I would ask that after naming them all that they stand to receive our welcome. There's Lynn Arling, President of the Alberta branch of the Consumers Association of Canada. Corrine van der Linden, who is a member of the board of the Consumers Association. Mary Chellis, the Executive Director of the Petroleum Resources Communication Foundation. 2 resource participants who advise the committee, Miles Shaw, Manager of Public Affairs for Western Canada for Imperial Oil Limited, and Mr. Bill Kurtzy, Managing Director of the Propane Gas Association. We're missing today Mr. Terry Bocock, who was the chairman, and David Barr, who also deserve the thanks of the Assembly for the work that they've done voluntarily for watching those prices on behalf of Albertans. I would ask them all to rise now and receive the warm welcome and thanks of the Assembly.
Member for Lacombe.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to the members of the legislature 30 grade 5 and 6 students from the Mirror School. They're accompanied by teacher Mr. Buchanan and parent Mrs. Piper and Mrs. Andrew. Now, Mr. Speaker, this is quite a unique group that we have here today. They undertook a project within their school to emphasize their desire to protect the environment, and that was the collection of milk cartons and taking that out of our environment and our countryside. And today they arrived here with between 5,000 and 6,000 milk cartons, and they've just presented that to the Minister of Education, myself, with a request that the Minister consider policy in the schools where students can get involved in environmental projects. So with that little brief history on them, I would ask them to rise. They're in the members' gallery and receive the traditional welcome of the Assembly.
Minister of Education, followed by Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce a number of the members of the French language working group who toiled for many hours and several meetings on recommendations for the government to implement the Mahe decision with respect to management and control of Francophone schools by Francophone parents. They are here to watch the tabling of this report today, and I'm proud to introduce Mr. Louis Desrochers, who served as Vice Chairman, Mr. John Brasseau, served as a member, Madame France Lavasseur-Ouimet, Mrs. Mary O'Neill, and Mrs. Claudette Roy, who combined with our good legal counsel, Mrs. Sandra Cameron, had asked them all to rise and receive the warm welcome and appreciation of all members of the Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my privilege today to introduce to you and members of the Legislative Assembly two guests from Moscow in the USSR, Katya and Sasha Kovalenko. They're accompanied, Mr. Speaker, by their Canadian host, Helen Sarek. They're seated in the public gallery. I'd ask them to rise so that we can welcome them to Alberta and Canada.
Minister for Occupational Health and Safety.
Mr. Speaker, it's not often that I have a privilege of introducing a grandson to this legislature. Seated in the members' gallery is two special people, my grandson James Peter and his grandmother, my wife Lorraine. Would they please stand and receive the welcome of this assembly?
Ministerial statements.
Minister of Education.
Mr. Speaker, I was pleased to table earlier today a copy of the report of the Working Group on French Language Education. Members of the Assembly will recall that the 1990 Supreme Court decision in the Mahe case said that although Alberta has distinct Francophone schools and a large number of Francophone programs, Section 23 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms means that Francophone parents must be given the right to manage and control their own schools where numbers warrant. As a result of the judgment and following extensive consultations throughout the province, the Working Group on French Language Education was established in January of this year to review the court's decision and to make recommendations on an effective solution for Alberta. The Supreme Court clearly said that it was up to the province to decide how best to meet the Section 23 requirements within the Alberta context. They suggested one approach, that was putting a single Francophone trustee on an existing school board in places like Edmonton. The one clear thing we have learned through all of our discussions, Mr. Speaker, is that there is no support for this suggestion. Albertans have told us that it will not work, and we have accepted their advice. Developing an appropriate solution has been a difficult task. The government had hoped to be in a position to introduce legislation during this sitting, but that simply was not possible. I received the Working Group's report just a few weeks ago, and for us to give the report the careful consideration it deserves means that there is simply not enough time for us to develop appropriate legislation. Mr. Speaker, this government takes very seriously its responsibility of introducing effective legislation, because legislation affects the lives of all Albertans. Legislation on management and control of Francophone schools will affect parents and students, school boards and teachers in a number of communities throughout Alberta. These groups must have the opportunity to look carefully at the Working Group's report and to tell the government, to tell their MLAs, and to tell the Minister of Education whether the proposed approach is one that works in their communities. The Working Group's report is a significant step forward. It allows us to focus our thoughts on what is the best solution for our province. I'd like to express my thanks to my colleague Walter Paskowski, who served as the chairman of the Working Group, as well as to all members of the group for the many hours they devoted to this challenging task and for the thoughtful recommendations they have provided. Over the coming weeks, Mr. Speaker, I will be asking for Albertans' views on the recommendations of the Working Group. That advice will help us to ensure that we meet our objective of developing the best possible solution here in Alberta.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the Minister must realize that there's going to be a lot of frustration from an announcement made here today in this legislature. I recognize, Mr. Speaker, that it's not an easy issue. It's a difficult issue. However, this has been going on since, before, but at least we've had the ruling by the Supreme Court in 1990, Mr. Speaker, and people are expecting governments to lead and eventually make tough decisions, whether everybody's going to like them or not, Mr. Speaker. And I say when in here this is left as totally, we know it's not going to be dealt with in this session, although we were pretty sure of that before this announcement, Mr. Speaker. However, it's left very vague. There's no time limit when this would be dealt with at all, Mr. Speaker. I wish the minister could at least been a little more forthcoming. There'll be a fall session next spring, 10 years from now, 100 years from now, or when, Mr. Speaker, because if something is not done here in the legislature, this is going to end up back in the courts, and it could end up costing the taxpayers of Alberta a lot more money. So I think this, Mr. Speaker, is disappointing at this stage that we're still back at square one. That's really what the minister is saying, Mr. Speaker. That's not good enough. There should be at least some direction about when we're going to deal with this issue.
Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. Mr. Speaker, last week the official opposition revealed that the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund had shrunk by 13% since 1983 because of this government's waste and mismanagement. And of course we compared that with what's happening in the Alaska Permanent Fund, Mr. Speaker. But I know these guys are shrewd business people, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, to continue further, we have just examined the recently released annual report of VenCap, Mr. Speaker. And we see why the Heritage Trust Fund isn't doing very well, Mr. Speaker. VenCap's annual report reveals that for the 1990-91 fiscal year, VenCap returned an abysmal $709,000 to the Heritage Savings Trust Fund. That's 0.5% on his $200 million, Mr. Speaker. Some performance, Mr. Speaker, some performance. My question to the minister is straightforward. What does the minister have to say to Albertans about a 0.5% return on their $200 million VenCap investment? Does he view this as an acceptable return for the people of Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, when one examines the return as it relates to the investment return from VenCap, we have to take into account that it is venture funding. If one examines venture pools of capital, the success rate is not near the success rate as to what VenCap has experienced over the last number of years. I'm surprised that the honourable member would only relay what has been returned as it relates to an investment on the return on a percentage basis. Because if one examines their investments and the contribution that they have made to the diversification of this province and their involvements with companies in the high-tech area, creating jobs for the province of Alberta, there's many-fold spin-off benefits that do accrue to the province, notwithstanding the low return on a percentage basis on this investment.
Mr. Speaker, he can say whatever he wants. $709,200 million is not exactly a brilliant return, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, let's look at the reason for the totally inadequate return. This government consistently, typical old story, has used VenCap as a taxpayer-funded slush fund to give money to prop up the failing companies of its friends, like Biotechnical, Churchill Corporation, Emery Apparel, Mr. Speaker. In fact, one of the investors, the VenCap investors, put it as well as anybody could. He says VenCap's the worst case of cronyism he has ever seen, Mr. Speaker. Same old problem. They're friends again, Mr. Speaker. And to the minister is simply this. Given that VenCap's atrocious rate of return, how does the minister justify his government's policy of doling out VenCap dollars to companies based on what they know, but not on who they know, Mr. Speaker? How does he justify giving the money to his friends again, the same as the loan guarantees, Mr.
Mr. Speaker, here we see again the inconsistency of the New Democratic Party, whereby they have indicated on a regular basis within this House that we should have an arm's-length organization involving themselves in investing for the diversification of the province. This is an arm's-length organization. It takes no direct direction from this government whatsoever, and for the honourable member to suggest otherwise is a total misrepresentation of the facts in which this individual deals in on a consistent basis. You cannot solely base the return as it relates to this province on the basis of the percentage return on the investment that the government has involved itself in. There's many companies providing many jobs, providing many spin-off benefits to the province of Alberta, and the reason this company was established, VenCap in 1983, was so that it could contribute substantially to the diversification of the province. It's doing its level best to do so, and we recognize that if we had our druthers, the interest return would be higher, but we also recognize, more importantly, the spin-off benefits that have accrued to the province of Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, it's just a coincidence, arm's length, just a coincidence that all these people getting this money and going broke happen to be friends of the government, right? Some coincidence, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about as venture capital, the spin-off that he's talking about. Mr. Speaker, this report shows that VenCap's venture investment portfolio is performing so badly that almost completely ate up the earnings from two-thirds of VenCap's deposits that are held in bank accounts and bonds, Mr. Speaker. I mean, this is some venture capital. Mr. Speaker, in other words, if it were not for the VenCap deposits that are not being used for venture capital, the venture investment portfolio would be a net drain on the taxpayers of Alberta. And my question to the minister is simply this, Mr. Speaker. Considering that VenCap continues to keep two-thirds of its investments in bank deposits and bonds, how does the minister justify VenCap's venture investment portfolio's horrible performance, Mr. Speaker? A performance that is so bad that it eats up profits made in two-thirds of its assets held in bank accounts and bonds.
Mr. Speaker, we're all aware that the leader of the New Democratic Party is unaware as to what venture capital pools are involved in. If one examines the venture capital pool involvement, we find that in excess of 50% of them usually do go through a failure pattern. VenCap has done extremely well when one examines the record as compared to other venture pools. The honourable member himself recognizes that there has been a return, small as it may be. But let me re-emphasize for the honourable leader of the New Democratic Party that this is an arm's-length organization. It does not take any direct direction from this government whatsoever. If the honourable member is suggesting that we should have direct intervention, it's contrary to what they've indicated in the past, whereby they have suggested we have a greater amount of arm's-length organizations.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker. Well, sorry, I won't laugh at the minister. Mr. Speaker, my second question is to the Minister of Health. And I'd like to move, Mr. Speaker, from the government's atrocious mismanagement of public funds to who it expects will pay for this mismanagement. Mr. Speaker, we all saw the Conservative government, the same one which shows cash at its corporate friends, slash funds to seniors to pay for the financial debt it's been taking. But now, Mr. Speaker, we see the government is about to slash funds to the handicapped children of our province. Mr. Speaker, exactly 1 week from today, this government's cuts to the Aids to Daily Living program will take effect. And parents of severely handicapped children will have to cough up more money to look after their children. Mr. Speaker, our office is getting a number of plaintive calls and letters from parents of those children, Mr. Speaker. And my question to the minister is this. How does the Minister of Health justify this cruel, and I stress cruel and unfair cutbacks to this program? Cuts that will hurt every handicapped child in this province, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, as I've indicated on several occasions with respect to some of the areas on AADL, and in particular some that we've discussed in this House, like incontinence supplies and catheter supplies, many of which are being accessed through the handicapped kids being clients of AADL, is that it is not all that will be affected by the changes. As I've indicated before, about 70% of our clients, for example, with incontinence supplies, have used less than what is now the ceiling on the supplies. We have launched a appeal process by which families who are affected in a major way because of the limit we've put on the supplies can launch an appeal. We're also going to the high users because, as I've indicated to the honourable member, the limits that we chose were limits that were consulted medically and were part of international research with respect to what is the appropriate level. However, I realize that through appeal, we've certainly allowed for those families who have an extraordinary medical or personal or financial circumstance to get beyond what is the normal limit of the program.
Mr. Speaker, an appeal is not going to work. It takes time and money from these parents, Mr. Speaker. Most people are under stress right now. The policy is wrong, Mr. Speaker. Right. But, Mr. Speaker, these parents are telling us that if these cuts go forward, they will have no choice but to consider institutionalizing their kids, Mr. Speaker, which will end up costing the government much, much more in the long run. Mr. Speaker. And my question to the minister is simply this. Considering that the institutionalization of only 17 kids as a result of these cuts will completely knock out the projected savings, will the minister explain how these cuts make any sense whatsoever from a financial, never mind an ethical point of view?
Mr. Speaker, obviously it is not the intent of the program to institutionalize people who were previously not institutionalized. Contrary to the Leader of the Opposition, I think in fact the appeals can and do work, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get through them as quickly as possible. Certainly all the workers within AADL are working to ensure that is the case.
Mr. Speaker, this is a government that has all sorts of money. They can hand out money to Pocklington, to VenCap, to their friends and everybody else, but we don't have money for handicapped kids. That's appalling. Absolutely appalling. And the minister's already made one mistake with the seniors. I want to ask the minister this. The one who so cheerfully slashed benefits to the seniors of Alberta, I want a chance for her to avoid making the same mistake by slashing support to handicapped kids. And the question is this, with 1 week to go, will she immediately reverse the cutbacks to the Aids to Daily Living program so the handicapped children of our province have the opportunity to continue to be cared for at a decent level by their families, not in institutions and in their own homes, Mr. Speaker? That's what the bottom line is.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, we haven't slashed benefits to seniors. We've increased our benefits to seniors by $75 million. With respect to the Handicapped Children's Services Program, that has not been changed. Handicapped children families do access, however, the Aids to Daily Living program. And with respect to Handicapped Children's Services, I can tell the honourable member that we are in the throes of a very comprehensive review of that program to look at the value-added component of a Handicapped Children's Services program. I know the Associate Minister and other ministries in government are looking at that program to ensure that we are providing for handicapped kids a very good program in this province, which we do provide. However, for the changes in the AADL, I think we are working through to ensure that we have increased those benefits, asking for some cost sharing on the benefits, and a very extensive appeal process, which I think will show that in fact our Aids to Daily Living program is one of the most contemporary and progressive in Canada.
Calgary Buffalo on behalf of the Liberal Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This question is to the $10 billion man, the provincial treasurer. Mr. Speaker, the $9 billion unfunded pension liability affects all Alberta taxpayers in general and the 160,000 employees in particular. The provincial treasurer, the most secretive minister and the most secretive government in Canada, has prepared a report dated May 30th, 1991, which the Liberal caucus has obtained and which I filed earlier this afternoon, which sets out the unilateral decision of government on a number of matters. And these matters include a proposal to have employers, such as municipalities and school boards, as well as employees, pay a surcharge in respect of the $9 billion liability. Now, the question to the provincial treasurer, Mr. Secrecy, is that in light of the fact that $9 billion of liability is accumulated due to the incompetence of the provincial government, I'm wondering whether the provincial treasurer will tell all Albertans what percentage of this past liability plans to offload onto municipalities and school boards, and particularly employees, since pension consultants tell us it's unheard of for employees to be asked to pay a part of a past unfunded liability, never mind one caused.
Thank you, honourable member.
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, the member is interrupting an important negotiating process which fortunately he's not involved in and won't be involved in, a process between the boards who have the responsibility for dealing with policy questions and the government who has responsibility for finding a solution, which we're now about to do. I only say, Mr. Speaker, that I hope the member's words were wrong when he said that we have had consultation with the consultants to the government, pension consultants, on these matters. If that's the case, Mr. Speaker, I want the record to very clearly show that.
Didn't answer the question.
Whatever negotiations are going on there, let it be noted it's behind closed doors, and Ontario didn't offload their past liabilities onto their employees. I'm wondering, therefore, whether the Treasurer will agree, as Ontario did, to establish a committee of independent experts to report to this House within 6 months so that we can all see what's going on instead of having these matters dealt with behind closed doors.
Speaker, there will be no, as usual, this government will continue to maintain its responsibility to these employees of the government across a variety of sectors. Certainly 5 or 6 pensions boards are affected. It's our view, Mr. Speaker, that the major long-term security to anybody in a pension plan right now is to ensure that the funded liability is put in place. Now, the member's rambling dissertation is absolutely wrong, and we will correct the unfunded liability by the end of this period. We have already had negotiations with the pension boards, and as the House knows, Mr. Speaker, I have introduced legislation already on a consent basis, which allows us to change by way of regulation with full consultation with the boards the pension plans that the Treasury is responsible for, which deal with the federal changes in income tax legislation. The second part of this, Mr. Speaker, is a commitment to the boards and to the members of the pension plans to have discussions with them over the course of the next 2 to 3 months, whereby we'll resolve by negotiation with the beneficiaries on the plans how it is we'll correct this unfunded liability. We will not take the slipshod approach that the member from Calgary-Buffalo would recommend, or the Socialist Liberal Party. We will deal with the participants, deal firmly and fairly, and in a discussion format, Mr. Speaker.
Look who's slipshod.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister's been hiding for years information with respect to these matters, and now he's again going behind closed doors. And I know that the municipalities and school boards are concerned with the pattern of offloading we've seen so far with respect to fuel taxes and Medicare premiums, and I'm wondering what the minister is going to do to ensure that he consults with municipalities and school boards in terms of their concern about further offloading of the amounts that should be paid by this government.
Well, you can see from the member which represents the Liberal Party's discursive policies, which are rambling and slipshod, as I've indicated, Mr. Speaker, that he doesn't know what he's talking about at all. What we will in fact do, Mr. Speaker, is deal with the pension boards, with the members I've indicated. We will circulate in the next 2 weeks a very detailed position of the province of Alberta, which will set forth a series of recommendations which will be negotiated and discussed, which are in the mutual interests of all parties involved. It's not going to be secretive behind closed doors. It'll be upfront and full open discussion, as already we have done. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, any impact on other beneficiaries or participants will be fully discussed with them, as is the common policy with this government, Mr. Speaker, as it will be in the future, as it is now, and as it will be evermore.
Hello, Karimbi.
Mr. Speaker, for the past year, teachers across the province have been telling us that there is a very serious problem with their pension program or pension fund. There's a danger that the retirement fund may not be able to meet the future call on the fund from teachers retiring. My question is to the Minister of Education. Legislation has been introduced by the provincial treasurer, that's just been noted, to begin the process of putting the government-managed pension plans on a firm basis. What are the steps that are being taken to provide these same provisions for the Teachers' Retirement Fund?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member pointed out, and as my colleague the Treasurer just pointed out, that we are ensuring that the Teachers' Retirement Fund, as well as the other government-funded pension plans, are fully on side with federal income tax legislation. I'm also pleased to advise the Assembly that we have reached an agreement with the Alberta Teachers Association, whereby we are taking an important next step in making sure that the TRF, the Teachers' Retirement Fund, is on a fully sound financial basis. The agreement that we have reached with the Teachers Association is a memorandum of understanding that moves the TRF to a fully funded, defined benefits pension plan that ensures matching contributions by both teachers and the Alberta government, and provides that current and future retirees will be provided with an annual cost of living adjustment based on 60% of the consumer price index. All in all, Mr. Speaker, the memorandum of understanding ensures that teachers have a secure financial package that provides that security not only to teachers but to future taxpayers in this province.
Right. Yes, a supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. It's my understanding, though, that the memorandum of understanding, if it reaches fruition, must be followed by legislation in order to be effective. My question then to the Minister of Education is, what would be the follow-up steps, and when could we expect this legislation to actually take place and affect the Teachers' Retirement Fund?
Well, Mr. Speaker, in keeping with what my colleague the Treasurer said, we went through a series of 6 meetings, 6 discussions with the representatives of the Alberta Teachers Association. There was full consultation, there was full negotiation, that will now take this memorandum of understanding, and the Teachers Association itself will provide information on the detailed content of the memorandum of understanding. It will then be followed by a representative assembly of teacher representatives who will be asked to consider and hopefully endorse the agreement. And once the ratification has occurred, then the government would introduce legislation at the next sitting of the legislature. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to reiterate that this important step is one that will put the Teachers' Retirement Fund on a sound, solid financial basis. And it will provide the kind of security that many in our teaching profession have expressed concern about, and fully recognizes the contribution that our teachers make in this province and gives them that security for the future.
That's a good.
Edmonton Jasper, please. Yes, Mr. Speaker, on Friday, the Minister of the Environment appeared to rule out the important matter of whistleblowers' protection. He said it was a policy not just for environment, but for the entire government. He went on to say some other things, but I think perhaps I better not repeat those. My question is for the Honourable Solicitor General, who has recently encouraged Albertans to phone in and report drunk drivers to authorities so that we can get them off the road. Now, I hate to be the one to accuse the Solicitor General of wanting to protect the purveyors of human carnage on the roads after all of the posturing that he's done, but I wonder if the Solicitor General would tell Albertans why he would be party to a government decision which leaves those who do their civic duty subject to harassment, intimidation, and possible reprisal in the absence of whistleblowers' protection.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to respond in respect to the Whistleblowers Protection Act that the honourable member from Jasper Place has pushed for a couple of years, but in respect to drinking and driving on the highways, it has been my initiatives for the 2 years plus that I have been here to get these drunks off the road, and what I'm doing is tying into systems that are already there, Crime Stoppers, Neighborhood Watch, Crime Watch, and this thing, all of who are encouraged to report crimes in progress. And somebody that is on the road driving while intoxicated is a crime in progress, and I have a great concern for the damage and carnage that can be caused by that person, and ask of the citizens of this province to take part in reporting that crime.
Mr. Speaker, we share the concern about getting drunk drivers off the road. The concern today, though, is for people who report those drunk drivers. Why would he want to leave them in a position where they are vulnerable to harassment, intimidation, and possible reprisal? Why not protect the witness in this case?
Mr. Speaker, the reporting of crimes by responsible citizens has been going on for decades, if not, in fact, centuries. And the responsible citizen that wants to report a crime does, in fact, do so, and doesn't seem overly concerned about whether they are going to be reported or something that arises from that in any case. And I don't think they will be in respect to reporting drunk drivers either.
Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it seems that good old Tories never die. They just get cushy jobs overseas. For example, Mr. Speaker, the executive assistant of the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, the former Culture Minister, former Cabinet Committee Secretary, and the manager of the Premier's office are all now agents general in our various Alberta offices. And Albertans are concerned that we don't have just retirement homes for old Tories, but in fact we're getting these places staffed by the best available people. My question today is to the Minister for Federal and Intergovernmental Affairs. Could the Minister confirm whether or not it is true that the Director of Research and Special Projects in the Premier's office, Mr. Gordon Young, has in fact been named as the Agent General to Hong Kong in another political patronage appointment?
I can confirm that Mr. Young has not been named as the Agent General for Hong Kong. When such appointments are made, they are done by order in council. and no such order in council has been passed.
Has not been passed?
Mr. Speaker, then my supplementary question to the Minister is that before the order in council is passed, will the Minister agree to having an open competition to allow that everyone has a fair opportunity to this job and we get the best person in there, not just another appointment?
I assume that the honourable member would like us to go through the same procedure as the federal government used in appointing the chairman of the Canadian National. When the honourable member for Gold Bar received that appointment, I don't recall any appointment being advertised. And the fact of the matter is, of course, that
How about Eugene
anybody...
Eugene Whelan, is that advertised?
The honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon says that was a generation ago, but I can assure the honourable member that I have observed with a good deal of care how appointments have been made to various positions where the government is served, either at the provincial government level or at the federal government level. And in most cases, I believe the best people have in fact been appointed to those positions. And certainly in the preamble to the honourable member's first question, it was very clear that it has been made very clear that the people who are serving Alberta in our foreign offices abroad are doing so very capably and effectively, efficiently, and in the best interest of Albertans. And it will be the policy of the government to continue that practice, to see that that type of service is continued.
Lesser Slave Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's been a great deal of information about a cabinet decision regarding the proposed YFY pulp mill and Polyboard OSB projects in northwestern Alberta. Mr. Speaker, these are in a region of the province that continues to have high unemployment, high welfare, and thus are poverty-stricken. I would hope that the environmental critics from the Liberal opposition and from the official opposition, or as they're known, the whistleblowers, support these environmentally sound projects. We know they hate to deal with environmental problems in their own backyards. However, I would encourage that they continue to support these projects. Could the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife clarify the correct information and the status about the cabinet decision regarding these two projects?
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, it's been very difficult to come to a decision on these proposals. There are two competing proposals for the area. They're both very good proposals, and both proponents feel that they can meet all the environmental standards that have been established in this province. Both MLAs, the MLA for Lesser Slave Lake and the MLA for Smoky River, have worked very hard in promoting the projects for the area, as well as the communities have worked very hard. We've gone through a number of committees in the government, and we've gone through cabinet and come to some conclusions. And in those conclusions, I was directed to do some further work in certain areas. Examples of would be defining clearly the wood supply numbers for the area, and I'm in the process of doing that. I advised both companies of that last Friday, and they both are still very positive.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This has been a long and involved process for the communities involved to get thus far. Would the Minister for Forestry, Lands and Wildlife again indicate the time frame for a final decision?
Mr. Speaker, these projects will go through a different process than the projects that preceded it, in that there will be no final decision with respect to which project will proceed. Coming from Cabinet, the Natural Resources Conservation Board will be involved, and that's a new board that's been established, and in establishing the process that the proponents would go through to go through the Natural Resources Board, Conservation Board is one area that we're working on. But Mr. Speaker, it's my, to answer the question directly, it's my undertaking to move as quickly as I can to identify the wood supply numbers that I talked about, and then the process would be then that we would look at the Natural Resources Conservation Board.
Edmonton Millwoods.
Mr. Speaker, my questions today are to the Minister responsible for the Workers' Compensation Board.
When injured workers are referred to the Workers' Compensation Board's Rehabilitation Center, they do not expect to face hazards and have additional injuries to compound their original one. And yet on May the 30th, one of my constituents was seriously injured at the rehab center due to an elevator malfunction. Since my constituent has not even received so much as an apology from the WCB for this incident, I wonder if the minister would give a commitment today to investigate this matter and give some assurance to my constituent and other injured workers that this kind of hazardous situation has been rectified.
Mr. Speaker, I'm disturbed in the manner that I received this. Here we have a personal confidential application for compensation sent to me openly. I don't know how many more copies are floating around. Surely if the honourable member had this, he'd have been to my office this morning and dealt with it in confidence. It's an open application that's been floating around through the legislature, where else, and it's a personal confidential document. We don't... Mr. Speaker, there's a process for all these applications to go through, and it's not through the legislature, assembly, or the minister's office. Now, if the honourable member cares to come to my office and deal with this in confidence, I'd be glad to do it.
So he won't even bother to investigate the incident. What a shame. Well, let's try some other minister. Maybe we can get better results here. Let's go to the Minister of Labour. And to the Minister of Labour, I would like to ask this question. Given that the Workers' Compensation Board is in violation of Section 13 of the Elevators and Fixed Conveyances Act, which is under her responsibility, and which requires the reporting of an elevator accident, will she launch a prosecution against the WCB as provided for in Section 22 of that Act?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my department has indeed been inspecting the elevator that caused this unfortunate incident, and it's my information that while this person was on the elevator jerked, throwing him off balance and causing him to fall against some of the handlebars in the elevator. A most unfortunate incident. We are still, however, continuing our investigation into the elevator, and we will have more to report in due course.
Baggerville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, my questions are to the Associate Minister of Agriculture. In addition to having to pay the high cost of inputs like fertilizer and herbicides, farmers in Alberta have had to borrow more money this year to cover costs imposed on them by government through cuts to the Farm Fuel Distribution Allowance program and premiums for the GRIP program. Now, the federal government has made some interim cash assistance available to farmers this year as long as the province participates in NISA, and for reasons known only to the ministers of agriculture in this province, they refuse to participate in this program. And I'd like to ask the minister why she and her colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, have abandoned their responsibilities to Alberta farm families by refusing to negotiate for, lobby for, and participate in a deficiency payment for farmers this spring.
Well, first of all, Mr. Speaker, I think in the comments that the member made, I think all Albertans and certainly all farmers in Alberta would disagree with the statement that this Department of Agriculture has abandoned farmers. As I have said on other occasions with a similar question coming from the member, this government, this department has a record of assistance to farmers that is unprecedented in Alberta. And I could go through the list again with your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, but I won't. And as the minister has outlined in this House on a number of occasions on the same question, that the federal government has accepted responsibility for the third line of defense, and there is nothing stopping the federal government to putting forth this payment to Alberta farmers at any time.
Well, they can stall forever and nothing happens, Mr. Speaker. Now, her colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, goes on television and says that farmers in Alberta don't have any problems, and that's just appalling. I'd like to ask the Minister if the real reason that they refuse to participate in NISA is because she and her colleague don't really believe that farmers need or deserve the money.
Well, first of all, it's always very convenient to comment just on a one-liner in an interview and ignore the rest of it. And in fact, what the minister and I have said on a number of occasions, that agricultural sector in Alberta generally is strong. There is no question that the grains and oilseed sector have faced some very severe challenges. And we have reacted to those in addressing them on assistance on credit and credit for young farmers through the ADC Beginning Farmer Program, on input costs both on fertilizer and fuels, and again in the very substantial commitment that we made to the grains and oilseed sector this spring in introducing the Revenue Insurance Program, which has been introduced in this House and debated at length. So for the member to say that we have abandoned farmers is entirely wrong. And again, the level of support that we offer to our producers in this province is unprecedented in Canada, and I would challenge the member to show otherwise.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, effective the 1st of July, the changes in aids to daily living will begin, despite the tremendous amount of evidence that we've all had on how devastating these changes are going to be to low and fixed income Albertans. And we're still getting a lot of calls, Mr. Speaker, from Albertans who don't understand why the government keeps boasting that people on AISH, social allowance, widow's pension, income supplements will not have to pay the 25% cost share. Yet if these same individuals need incontinence supplies, the program will only pay a maximum of $400 a year, leaving the consumer to pay the balance, often as high as $1,600. Mr. Speaker, despite the serious consequences for clients on government assistance, I'm alarmed at the silence of the Minister of Family and Social Services. And my questions to the Minister are, what will the Minister be doing to help his clients who require more than $400 worth of incontinence supplies, diapers, pads, catheters? Will the Minister pick up the difference?
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Health has already pointed out in the Assembly earlier today that there is an appeal process in place to be able to address those unique situations.
Mr. Speaker, then to the Minister of Health, the appeal process, the appeal board is made up of ADL employees, the very people who designed the program. I don't believe that anyone could expect that to be objective. Will the Minister then, Mr. Speaker, undertake to appoint members from the public and from social advocacy groups to this appeal committee? Let's make it fair.
Mr. Speaker, the AEDL program panel, which would review in this case, the numbers and the levels of maximum supplies, is one that includes medical analysis. I'll certainly look at the membership of that appeal panel and look to broadening that out in these circumstances. I thank her for the suggestion.
Calgary Milliken. Calgary Milliken.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the city of Calgary, the cost of the electrical power has now risen to a higher cost than the municipal property tax. They just got a 31% increase, makes a total of 42% increase in 14 months. And many of the seniors and low-income families are having a hard time with this. I wonder if the Minister of Energy could please shed some light on why the electrical power rates have had such a dramatic increase.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I should point out to the honourable member first and foremost that any increase in rates are interim, because the Public Utilities Board is currently having the rate case hearings as we speak. The honourable member should know that there is a movement on the North American continent to move towards a more regulatory practice of user pay, that is, to do away with cost subsidies, and I can tell you that the Public Utilities Board has that same attitude, although it is not being implemented on a holus-bolus matter. Mr. Speaker, I should also say that the Department of Energy is now looking at a number of issues facing the electrical industry, such as rate design and industrial incentive rates, that will smooth out some of the bumps that occur in electrical rates. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I should point out that I know the honourable member is referring to the TransAlta situation in southern Alberta. And in fact, TransAlta is requesting a 38% rate increase to cover what they maintain are their costs, increased costs. Mr. Speaker, there has not been an increase in rates to TransAlta since 1985. And if you compare their request of 38% to the CPI inflationary rate, which is about 33%, you can see that they are pretty much in balance. But at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, the Public Utilities Board will judge the submissions made by the proponents, listen to the interveners, and then make a decision in the end.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. We proceeded with a Sheerness plant, and then later we had a Genesee plant at the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars. And I've been informed that we didn't really need that power, but we're going to have to pay for that power station that was not necessary at this time. Could you please advise who foolishly went ahead with the Genesee plant when we had the Sheerness plant almost completed?
Good job.
Mr. Speaker, one of the difficulties in the process of approving new power plants in the province is the disparity in the decision-making process between the Energy Resources Conservation Board and the Public Utilities Board. In our government's view, that the decision-making process should be one process. That is, whether the project gets approval will depend on whether or not there is a demand for power. In the situation of Sheerness and the first Genesee unit, there is no question that some of the rate increases in the system are a result of those plants being brought in, construction allowed to occur, the cost going into the rate base when there is no significant increase in power forecast until probably around 1996. So those decisions, those recommendations, and certainly at the desire of the City of Edmonton, have resulted in higher costs. As I indicated, Mr. Speaker, the board will make that decision, take all of those matters into consideration, and we are looking at rate design issues to deal with some of these disparities that we've discussed here just now.
Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the poverty rate in Alberta is unacceptably high, so high that in Edmonton alone, 34,000 children under the age of 12 years old have had to go to the food bank last year.
Shame.
A recent Statistics Canada survey shows that children born to poor families are at greater risk of having disabilities and other health-related problems and are 66% likelier to die before the age of 1. The Minister of Family and Social Services social reform package that he is so proud of offered 10 cents a day increase in food allowance for adults, and families in this province continue to live in poverty. So to the Minister, in light of the serious effects that poverty has on these children and that many of these families are on social assistance, will the Minister act immediately to raise the rates of social allowance to reflect the true cost of living?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me make it very clear that we're not going to buy our way out of poverty. That may be the member's opposite solution, but it certainly isn't the solution of this government. As it applies, Mr. Speaker, to the poverty level here in Alberta, I would again remind the member that it is amongst the lowest levels of poverty in Canada exist here in Alberta as a result of some of the initiatives of this government. I would also remind the member that we've just seen a massive increase in our income security budget before this Assembly. We've seen, in particular, Mr. Speaker, the rates focused on children increased by up to 19%, Mr. Speaker. We've seen increased standard benefits as a result of the reforms. Mr. Speaker, we're doing everything that we can. We're not happy about poverty levels anywhere in Canada. We're not happy about food banks anywhere in Canada. But Mr. Speaker, as we look at what we're doing in Alberta, compared to other provinces, I would think the member would have to agree that at least in Alberta, we're heading in the right direction.
Mr. Speaker, 10 cents a day won't even buy an apple, and that's certainly nothing to be proud of, I would say. Mr. Speaker, given that the health problems suffered by poor children begin before birth, I would ask the Minister, will he at least agree to increase the meager supplement available to pregnant women on social assistance, which was not increased in the social reform package last fall?
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about policies, and I can assure the member opposite we're certainly not going to follow the lead being offered by the Ontario NDPs, where we're seeing food bank usage not just double or triple, but quadruple. Totally out of control in Ontario, Mr. Speaker. I can assure the member that we're not going to follow that route. I can assure the member that we're going to do everything in this province to continue, Mr. Speaker, to diversify, to make real alternatives available to Albertans, alternatives in the forms, Mr. Speaker, of jobs. And they might not think that's an answer, Mr. Speaker, but I can assure you that the efforts of this government that created in excess of 100,000 new jobs in this province in recent years, Mr. Speaker, and not just jobs, but good jobs, because we have amongst the highest family income in all of Canada. Mr. Speaker, I would again point out to some of the successes, and they talk about statistics. This is a release of the Canadian Association of Food Banks. This is their newsletter, and I quote, Mr. Speaker, Edmonton's food bank has experienced a 42% drop in food demand since 1986, and an 11% decline between 89 and 90. Mr. Speaker, those are the directions, that's the direction that we want to go in.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Thank you. From last week, we have some tidy up. We have 3 questions from the member from Edmonton Mill Woods towards the Minister of Occupational Health and Safety. The first one we will deal with is the one that occurred on June the 19th. The question was, when will the WCB start to adhere to its own principles of client satisfaction and benefit of doubt goes to worker? Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I guess the first question was, where is the minister? And maybe I could answer that first.
Exactly.
Mr. Speaker, last week, starting on Monday, June the 17th at 6:30 a.m., I had breakfast at Petro-Canada and spoke to a number of workers, contractors and guests, then traveled to Lethbridge for a function there. On Tuesday, I started at Whitecourt at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. You're out of order. You're not here to answer that question. You will ask the question that the chair just raised. Thank you, honourable members. The question once again, when will the WCB start to adhere to its own principles, client satisfaction, and benefit of doubt goes to worker?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'll abide by your ruling. Since April of 1989, in my office, we communicated with some approximately 3,500 injured workers. We have asked those injured workers if they're not satisfied with workers' compensation decisions, they should appeal it to the Ombudsman. Out of that, we've had 23 supported claims from out of 100,000 files opened by compensation in 1990. The percentage of that is 0.0023, a pretty good record. Mr. Speaker, the 7 people that were contacted or contracted by the Ombudsman, 2 were from the 1984 claims, 2 were from 1986, 1 was from 1987, 1 was from 1988, and 1 was from 1989. Mr. Speaker, from January to May of 1990, the Ombudsman looked at 65 complaints. In the same period of 1991, January to May, he's looked at 42 complaints, a decrease of 35%. Mr. Speaker, we are moving in the direction of having less complaints go to the Ombudsman.
Thank you, Edmonton Millwoods, on that issue.
Well, Mr. Speaker, a 44% increase in complaints to the Ombudsman is okay by this minister. Is he not going to take any action to reduce that level of complaints, or will he be happy to see it go up another 44% next year?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I guess the member has difficulty listening or hearing. I just mentioned that in the same period of 1991, the complaints to the Ombudsman have decreased by 35%. That's going in the right direction, Mr. Speaker.
From June the 20th, the question was, when will this government finally show some leadership and insist on a full cleanup of these hazardous work sites across the province? Minister of Occupational Health and Safety.
Well, the member would have to be more specific, but I think he was referring to the PCB at Swan Hills. And in our information that I received just recently, research has shown that the levels of PCB parts per billion in the workers there was 30 parts per billion. Those working in PCB environment have reached as high as 1,900 PCBs per billion. And Mr. Speaker, the Department of Occupation, Health and Safety have been now identified those employees. They've been moved from those jobs to another job. This happened in January. I understand the PCB level of all those employees is below the 30 parts per billion, and they're now working again at the site.
Edmonton Millwoods on this issue?
Well, it's fine to move employees, but we wanted to know what exact action has been taken to clean up the contamination problem at the site where it happened so it doesn't infect other workers. Can the minister address that?
Mr. Speaker, my information from the plant staff, the plant they've worked on, the people involved in running the plant have now advised us that they have that under control and that the PCB level is being reduced to a level that's acceptable, and they have a monitoring system in place now that will give us the readings of PCBs to workers a lot quicker than have in the past.
Thank you. From June 21st.
June 21st one was in regards to toxic chemical in fly ash at Daisawa plant. My information today, Mr. Speaker, is that there was
no. Honourable Minister, no, that was for the previous day. The one for the 21st is with respect to what measures will be taken to protect Alberta workers from biological hazards, especially those that have resulted from this government's misguided policy on game ranching.
Mr. Speaker, this is referring to the TB processing at the Northern Alberta Processing Company. I'm informed today that there's been an order to shut the plant down from handling or processing any further infected elk, and Occupation Health and Safety will be monitoring that situation to make sure that that TB dust or whatever it is not available or not present in the worksite.
Thank you. Edmonton Millwoods on this issue.
To hear of an action there for a change, but let me just ask the minister further, what action is he, given this outbreak of tuberculosis in this particular plant, is he going to look at the biological hazards that workers are exposed to in processing plants around the province, or is he going to wait until there's an actual outbreak of disease there? Will he do a check at the other processing plants as well?
Well, Mr. Speaker, there's only the one plant that is processing the infected elk. And according to the report we received just today from the medical profession is that a person can be positive with TB but not necessarily have a TB infection. And so if there are other plants that are working in infected animals, certainly Occupation Health and Safety will be moving as quickly as possible if there is such plants to make sure it's monitored.
Thank you. Standing Order 40 request, Edmonton Goldbar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise understanding under Order 40 to ask for unanimous consent of the Assembly to deal with the motion. I've read the motion into the record, Mr. Speaker, and I won't read it again. It's been circulated to all members. Speaking briefly, Mr. Speaker, to the urgency of the matter, we are not assured in the House that there will be a fall sitting of the legislature. Mr. Speaker, we have placed this bill on the order paper. There's no question in my mind, Mr. Speaker, that Albertans are concerned about parliamentary procedural reform. Their concern, Mr. Speaker, is not a fad, I submit, but a deeply held feeling that we need reform, and reform related to the office of the Speaker, among other things. The federal government has seen fit to recognize the need for change. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, it's also important that both the House and the citizens of this province always have total confidence in the Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we believe that the Speaker should be confirmed or reconfirmed each year to guarantee that that confidence and that belief in the Speaker is maintained in this most significant function of the House. Mr. Speaker, I believe that it's important that this bill be debated in this sitting in order that the matter be resolved, and I ask for the support of all members.
Standing Order 40 request. Those willing to give unanimous consent for the matter to proceed, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. No. Matter fails. Chair believes Edmonton Glengarry has a statement.
Mr. Speaker, on Friday last, I was named in this House for conduct that the Speaker found unparliamentary. I've had the opportunity of reviewing Hansard, particularly the exchange that took place between the Speaker and the honourable member from Edmonton Whitemud. And it is not that I am, as I understand it, that I'm being asked to apologize for calling the Minister of Environment a mouse or mousy, but that I am being asked to apologize for not sitting when the Speaker rose, and for that I apologize, sir.
Well, thank you, Honourable Member, but in actual fact it would have been very gracious of you to have withdrawn your remarks about the Honourable Minister of the Environment. You were called to order for that because that is indeed not parliamentary practice. With respect to being ordered from the House, the matter was not only that you continue to stand, but the comments that were being shouted back at the Chair. Nevertheless, the Chair accepts your apology. Thank you. Orders of the day.
Government bills and orders for second reading.